All right, welcome back. And today's problem is going to be the beginning of a series. And this series is going to be tackling a pretty large problem. AI can help a lot, and so we want to tackle big problems. This one's going to be trying to make as automated a process as possible to enter a problem or even find its own problem, and then vet the problem and go through all of the steps of the product requirements document that I showed before, and really vet out the idea so that you can reject the idea or realize that there's a market there, and in the end get real customer feedback emails so that you can start the process or decide to scrap it because the idea doesn't hold weight after you go through this rigor. And so the very first thing we're going to do is keep the human in the loop, and at each one of these steps we want to approve it. We want to send it to the AI so that they can help us, but we want to also give our input before anything happens. And then when we do that, we're going to have the problem as our very first thing. And so here's what we're going to do. Our goal is to validate with the market and try to figure out if our idea is worth pursuing as quickly as possible. And as I say, I would like to automate the whole process, but right now we're going to start with a human in the loop to help keep everything accurate. Right now, there's customer interviews. Those are what you should do when you're trying to figure out and get empathy for the customer. And it's a bunch of questions I'll show you later, but the end goal was to figure out their problems so that you can figure out solutions. But what we're really after with every product is a business outcome. And that's why we're taking the effort and time, because we think we're going to offer value that people will pay us for. And so ours with this would be to help validate ideas and get real customers, get real emails, be able to get data backed ideas. And so you can go with our research to get investment because you're going to show real people want this, and it's probably going to take off on its own if it's a real good product market fit type area. You should at least be able to see those signs through LinkedIn posts or mock-ups of or landing pages, any kind of way to validate it. Even polls can be done for customer interviews to gauge that at the very beginning during this problem stage. Either way, we're just trying to get this business outcome of making sure the market is worth it for this problem. And so our requirements are going to be the problem statement, so a nice structured good problem statement that will go into more detail once we get it built. Then the supporting documents, so if you read something and that sparks, pass that here so that the AI has it also as contextual information to help get it on the same page as you. You're going to try to do customer interviews. A lot of people don't know how to do those, and so we're going to offer them through kind of a guided tour of it, and then you'll do it through chats. But then as we're doing this, you can also do these offline and feed in the input, and so that'll have to be manual to get the feedback from the people who have the problems, but we'll also monitor and try to find places to iterate to make the solution more tailored to what we're finding out as we learn in a true product cycle. And so when we begin the process, we begin it with these customer interviews just like normal, in a real process that anyone would go through. Then it'll be human led. You can add your human notes from ones you've done. So if you're talking on Google Hangouts, then use your note taker to help give the context to the AI when you pass these answers in to help with the PRD. And then you can copy and paste those. You can also be the person entering the information, the PM, in the chat interface. So a person that is just doing the talks can also give their input on what they saw. The more I don't know what je ne sais quoi of it. And then, of course, we're going to allow AI to try to these questions too. So here, there's kind of an art to doing customer interviews, but really it's trying to figure out what it is they do. What do they do now? Where's their stress? How high is that? Do they want like a solution where they're going to say, give me, or just take my money and I want this? Or are you going to have a, well, we'll see, I'll try it, I'd rather it free, that type of need. Either way, it's going to be a different tactic we'll take depending on the answers we get to these. And so how much time does it take for you, how much stress, stuff like that. You're going to see that not only are there going to be real answers like the text that the note taker can give, but there's clues like stammering and talking, the human clues that humans have to interact to feel. And so those can also be inputted to help validate the problem as real, and then try to elicit a solution through some of these questions too. Once again, as we go through this process, we're just trying to learn what it is that the customer needs us to fulfill, and we want to find the most high value for the least effort possible. That's how we'll win. So what we'll end up having to do in the next phase when we research is send out agents. Agents are groups of AI bots basically that can do certain tasks, because to give them do all the research is much harder for them, just like a human. And so if you say, hey, you do academic papers and journals, you do industry reports, you figure out the social and community spaces that these places are, and together a manager bot will collate all that information and then give it to me to see, and give it to the AI for them to see when they're making the decisions with us to figure out whether to move forward, how to move forward, if there's pivots involved, and help flesh out the product itself as you would in a normal process without AI. This time it's just supercharging it and making sure we get like a PhD level of research out of little effort on our end. The RAG content for AI prompt is going to be prevalent here, and we're going to inject in the context these things, the answers to these. Maybe it'll be summaries, maybe it'll be the full things, and then also all the information we get from our back and forth, the je ne sais quoi answers, things like that will all get passed. And so us and the AI are all on the same team and creating together, with us being the final approval to make sure everything's accurate. So the acceptance criteria is laid out here, and here's our North Star metrics. These are all going to be kind of we'll see how they go, and they'll evolve every time. So I'm not really 100% worried about these all right now, but we do need to make sure that there's no bias risk, because that's a risk. And you don't want to have just friends. You want to have people who really want to help, who really want help on their problem, and they will have other people like them too. And so we want to make sure we weed that out. And in our AI responses, we want to make, just like we want our questions to be open-ended and not leading, we also want our prompts to be the same way, so that we don't, the reason we don't do that with customer interviews is so that we don't lead the answers, and we don't want to lead the AI either. And so everybody's independent. It's just like a regular Scrum team. One of the tenets of Scrum is to be independent, and this is one of the ways I'm trying to keep that involved too. And so there's some other risks for sure, and then of course we have open questions. But in the end, what we're trying to do is create a nice validated product, and the first thing you have to do in the PRD is to figure out what your problem is. State it, figure out how many people have it if you can, see if you can get polls out at this stage and try to get validation from actual people. Maybe they'll help give you shape and be part of the customer interview process. So from here, we're going to move on to actually trying to implement some of this and getting it into the system itself and building out this PRD from the very beginning. So with that being said, we'll see you tomorrow with yet another problem. Have a great day.